Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Ambassador Nikki Haley is running for president. She joins me. Welcome back, Ambassador. Great to have you.
Thanks so much, Hugh. It's great to be with you.
Great speech at Regent University. I don't know if that was yesterday or Monday or last week, but I like commencement speeches that praise America. When was that?
That was Saturday.
Well, congratulations. It's a great speech. First question, Ambassador. Reaction to the verdict in Carroll v. Trump.
I mean, I'm not going to get into that. That's something for Trump to respond to. I think the focus has to be not to be distracted. It's why we've got to leave the baggage and the negativity behind. We've got to focus on what people are talking about. I'm doing town halls all over Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, and they are concerned about inflation. They're concerned about their kids' education. They're concerned about the border and how out of control it is. They're concerned about crime and what's happening with, why is there a Chinese spy balloon flying over us? Those are the things they care about. I'll let Trump respond to that, but no need to.
He's doing a town hall tonight, Ambassador. Is it a legitimate question for Caitlin Collins to ask him, or would that be legacy media being anti-Republican again?
I'm sorry, repeat the question?
The former president is doing a town hall for CNN tonight. Caitlin Collins is the host. Is it legitimate for her to lead off actually asking that question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think she can ask the question. I think he's got to answer for it. But, it's not my case. It's his case. So I think I think she's going to ask the question. I think he's going to answer it.
All right. Now, Ambassador, you gave a great interview to David Brody of Christian Broadcast Network in which you said almost all businesses are woke. I agree with that. But what would you do if you're president when it comes to appointing an SEC chair or Treasury officials who regulate this? Do you think ESG and DEI are in the best interest of their shareholders?
Look, I think it's gotten out of control. Everybody sees that. What we want to see companies do is focus back on profits and what they're supposed to be doing. When they start getting political, when they start getting into what's right or wrong, they're getting away from what their mission is, which is to make sure their stockholders are doing well, make sure they're taking care of their employees, making sure that they provide a good product, and that they make a profit. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of these companies have started to go woke. They've started to get involved in things that they're fine to have private opinions on. They're fine to even talk about in their own boardrooms. But when they start making public statements, they have to understand there's going to be pushback. You look at Bud Light right now and what's happening to them. I have said for a long time, Dylan Mulvaney, that is, that is a guy dressed up like a girl making fun of women. And, in a time where a third of our teenage girls seriously contemplated suicide last year, we've got to look at what these companies are doing and who they're glorifying. That's more of the focus that I think we need to really say, look, what is your agenda here and what are you trying to do? And I think it's completely out of whack at this point, and that's the reason I think we need to right the ship.
Now, you had a great AG when you were governor of South Carolina in Alan Wilson. I know Alan. Will you, if you're the nominee, will you give us a peek at your cabinet or at least a short list so we know that you're going to bring people like Alan Wilson or a serious-minded group of people into your cabinet, Ambassador?
It's not even what I say, it's what I did. If you go and look when I was governor and I had to appoint my cabinet, I didn't appoint politicians and I didn't appoint donors. I appointed people who understood who their consumer was in their agencies. A lot of people talk about when they're president, this is what they're going to do. When I'm president, the first thing I'm going to do is focus on my agencies. And what I did as governor is I had people go into every single agency and pull out the dead weight, get rid of the old programs, streamline everything, and if we needed to, gut agencies so that we could get it straight. And I think that that's what we have to do in every single agency. Within 90 days, they all had goals and benchmarks that they had to hit. And I made sure they understood their consumer, and that was making sure if you're costing a person or a business time, you're costing them money, and that was no longer acceptable in South Carolina. I think when we talk about D.C., we've got to get government that works for the people, not the other way around, and it's gotten very top-heavy. Then the other thing I'm going to do is make sure that, a president typically meets with their governors once a year. I'm going to meet with my governors every quarter. We want to push as much down to the states as possible. We don't need the federal government handling all these things. Let's let the states do it. When it's the states, it's closer to the people, and it manages better, and it's more efficient, and it's more effective. So there's going to be a lot of change in the agencies.
The 2016 election was decided I believe, for Donald Trump because Mitch McConnell held open the vacancy that was created by the untimely death of Justice Scalia. And I think that list that the former president put out before he became president was vital. Will you do a similar list?
I think when it comes to conservative justices, it's very important. I'm not going to get in front of things yet and start talking about what we're going to release, but I do think that was a really important time for people to understand conservative justices matter, those that are going to actually follow the law and not try and interpret it a different way. I think is going to be hugely important, and I think that deals across the board on all issues. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think you go put who cabinet members are, but I don't think it's irresponsible to go out who you think would be good justices and who you think would follow the law accordingly.
Now let's turn to your wheelhouse, national security. The Chinese Communist Party named a new foreign secretary, and he said immediately that he threatened us yesterday, quote, conflict and confrontation with the United States is inevitable if Washington does not change course. In the words of CNN, delivering a stern and wide-ranging rebuke of U.S. policies for his first press conference in his new role. Your reaction, Madam Ambassador?
When I was at the United Nations, I saw China throw temper tantrums like that all the time. You know, we shouldn't be fazed by those temper tantrums. That's just because they don't like the way things are. We don't like the way things are either. But I think the days of the United States being reactionary to things like that should come to an end, and the days of us telling countries what we expect of them should be starting. That's the focus that we should have.
Would a President Haley sink Chinese Communist Party ships that are headed in an invasion of Taiwan with American submarines and American torpedoes?
It should never even get to that. We should be preventing war. And the way you prevent war, it's the reason this Ukraine-Russian war matters. It's more than just about Ukraine. It's about freedom. And if we show that we have the back of Ukraine, if we show with our allies that they have the equipment they need to win and allow them to do that, that's the biggest message we could send to China, and it will send a message to them on Taiwan. It'll send a message to North Korea on ballistic missiles. It'll send a message to Iran on building a bomb. Is that we have to focus on those things. China will not move if they think they're going to get deterrence on Taiwan. Right now, our friends don't trust us and our enemies don't fear us, and we have to change that.
President Biden's been incoherent, not surprisingly, on this. Sometimes he says he would stop the invasion. Other times he says back to strategic ambiguity. I am personally against strategic ambiguity. Have you made up your mind yet whether to dispense with it or to keep it?
Well, I think, first of all, you don't ever want to tell your enemies what you're going to do. You know, I think you do want to make sure that you're firm, you're strong, and that they don't doubt you. That's the biggest thing is they need to, you know, at the United Nations, I told countries what America was for and what America was against. I didn't care if they didn't like me, but I wanted them to respect America. That's what we need to do. And, you know, I can tell you things like when the Russian plane knocked down the American drone. What did America do? Absolutely nothing. What would I have done if I was president? Put 2 drones up there at a fighter jet. Put our naval fleet back in the Black Sea because it never should have come out in the first place. Those are the things that put countries on their heels. Those are the things that make them second guess and say maybe we shouldn't go there. We've got to get back to that.
Madam Ambassador, the triad I ask everyone about, we really can't afford all 3 legs anymore. Which is the most important? What do you put your money behind first?
Well, first of all, I think it's more than the triad. We've got to start saying it's not just land, air, sea, but it's also intellectual property and it's artificial intelligence. And we should be able to bounce multiple balls at one time. So I think they're all important. If you want to talk about picking one, I think nuclear submarines are going to be most important because you can conceal them, and I also think, you know, they're the most mobile. But I think we need to be focused on all 5 of those legs and not just one.
Now, 3 questions, Madam Ambassador. This is really in your wheelhouse, but I don't know if any other candidate would know what to say. Pakistan is actually convulsing. Every day I read my news items from John Ellis, and it's another bad thing. They're on the brink. What ought we to be doing?
Well, I think, you know, you just saw Khan was arrested, you know, a couple of days ago because they didn't want him to continue with, you know, any political issues. They are collapsing. And look, Pakistan's never been our friend. They harbored terrorists that tried to kill our soldiers. And, you know, on top of that, they've been very close to China. So, you know, for us, this is expect for China to move in and attempt to save them in some way, shape, or form. But, you know, keep in mind, Pakistan is not a friend of ours. India is, and I think India is where we need to have our strength in our alliance, and Pakistan will watch where they go. But I think they've always harbored terrorists. I think they continue to harbor terrorists, and we need to continue to keep our eye on them.
So no additional aid package to try and assist them through this period of economic instability and political unrest?
No.
All right. I want to stay on India for a moment. I'm glad you brought it up. India confuses me, Madam Ambassador, because I think they're our allies some days, and other days they're dealing with Putin. What's the score, and how would you handle it?
India doesn't trust that we'll win. That's the problem. I mean, you got to put yourself in India's shoes. They don't trust that America will win. They would much rather be with us than Russia, but they have always had a long military relationship with Russia. Russia has provided them arms. You know, I remember when I was at the United Nations and I met with Modi, and, you know, the U.S. was upset that Modi was once again getting arms from Russia. But first of all, the U.S. government takes forever just to approve any country having arms, so we shouldn't complain when they go with someone else. But secondly, right now, you know, just with all that's going on, India's confused about us. So if we're confused about India, what have we given India any confidence on that we know what we're doing? Right now, we look incredibly distracted. And when America's distracted, the world is less safe. I think India's trying to figure out how to stay in the middle until they can figure out exactly what we're going to do. What we need to do is show them that we have the confidence and ability to lead again. And when we start leading, I think you'll start to see more countries get behind us. They'd much rather follow us than Russia or China any day of the week.
Ambassador, I want to close with two questions about the Middle East. Erdogan is on the ballot Sunday. Is the West better off if he loses? Is NATO better off if his opponent wins? What do you say about Erdogan in this Sunday?
You know, that's an interesting one. I think that he is in jeopardy for the first time. And, you know, he hasn't been a trusted NATO friend. He's always kind of kept us on the brink of wondering what he's going to do. In the, you know, most recent years, he's kind of gone more off the reserve than be with us. So, you know, I think that let's see what happens, but I wouldn't be so upset if he lost, you know, but with Turkey, you never know what you're going to get.
Last question. Israel's under attack this morning from Gaza. Joe Biden won't invite Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House. What's your reaction to the latter in light of the former?
Shameful. Absolutely shameful. You should always have the backs of your friends. Israel is trying to defend themselves the same way we try and defend ourselves if somebody was shooting missiles at us. And, you know, that's another reason why our allies don't trust us, is, you know, they shouldn't have to sit there and say, oh, let's wait it out till the next president. That's what our enemies are doing right now. We need to make sure that we are always strong and consistent.
It is always great to talk to you. What's the website, Ambassador?
NikkiHaley.com. Join us. We've got a country to save.
NikkiHaley.com. Ambassador, keep coming back. Always good. I can run through all the questions with Nikki Haley in 10 minutes. I love that. Thank you, Ambassador.